Welcome back, World Hoppers, to another collection of Words of Brandon that I've been posting over the past month or two. For those of you who don't know, I post Words of Brandon almost every day as shorts to YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. And then at the end of every month or two, I put them together in a collection so you can watch them all at once if that's how you prefer. The Words of Brandon in this collection are really good, so I'm excited to hear what you have to say about them. Let me know in comments. Also, let me know in the future if you want me to add context to these Words of Brandon. I kind of like that they're just there without me, so you can just go through them very quickly. But if you'd like me to provide more context to these Words of Brandon, let me know. That said, sit back, relax, and let's get started.
Of all your books, which cover is your favorite?
Cover of the original Way of Kings. Just because of the meaning Michael Whalen's pictures and paintings have in my life. Just the fact that I got a Whalen cover and that it is so iconic for me for Way of Kings and things like that.
I'm assuming that a shard bearer can sever their own soul, right? If they were to stab themselves?
Yeah, okay. They can sever their own soul, yes.
Did you write Amaram as an opposite of Dalinar, or was he simply a bad guy meant to spur Kaladin?
I meant Amaram to be the representation of the corrupt side of the Alethi. Meaning they are all talk and very little heart. Very little of what they say to the worst of the Alethi gets to who they really are. They would rather be known as someone honorable than be actually honorable. And this I consider a major problem with their society, and I needed somebody to represent this, right?
Is Adolin a French fries or onion ring kind of guy?
Ooh, Adolin a French fries or onion rings type of guy. Boy. Onion rings, I think, probably, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's a hard question, very hard.
How do you decide which stories need to be told when as you work your way through the Cosmere?
Mostly which stories need to tell when in the Cosmere is affected by what I'm most excited to write right now. The Cosmere so far has been separated enough that I can look at what I'm really passionate about and write it, and there's been no reason so far to put those very out of order chronologically. The further we go, the more that'll have to be. Like the Wax and Wayne books happen chronologically after Stormlight 1 through 5. And so it's already begun a little bit. But for the most part, it was, what am I passionate about writing? What do I feel like is the best book for me to write? And then I make sure it fits into the chronology rather than otherwise. Again, the further we go, the more these things lock into place. Like White Sand is jumping backward in time, and when I do Dragonsteel, it's going to jump even further. So this will happen more and more as we go. But right now, I write what I'm passionate about.
When one of your books gets a live-action adaptation, will you make a cameo? And if so, which character would you like to be?
So my goal is to cameo in all of my adaptations as a person who dies in a different way in each movie, or something terrible happens to them. This is just, I love this idea because, I kill characters in the books, and so this is like revenge of a sort. Basically, I get to be the Kenny for all the Cosmere films, right? You'll have to be watching out and see when you see Brandon, and then a wall will fall on me, or, a Koloss will throw me, to be feasted upon by the others, or I'll get tossed off a wall, or anything like that. That's what we want to do. If a Radiant uses an Honor Blade or binds a second sprint to the new ability resonances by having surges that aren't actually combined. Yes, they could, indeed. If Vasher and Shashar had awakened a non-weapon in exactly the same way as Nightblood, say a shield, would the object exhibit the same properties as Nightblood? So if you said destroy evil to a shield, no, it wouldn't be exactly the same. The command is the most important part of all of this, but the shape, how the weapon perceives itself, how you perceive it, is all going to play into this. They're playing with some real dangerous stuff when they made Nightblood, and didn't go as intended. Shard blades burn out the eyes of their victims, and dead eyes have their eyes scratched out in Shadesmar. Is the connection here purely thematic, or are there actually romantic mechanics behind it? There are, but they're pretty slight. I would lean more on the idea of the thematic and this being more of a Roshar thing with the eye color, the eyes being scratched out, the shard blades burning out the eyes. Mostly it's me trying to connect a theme in this magic system. As you might know, maybe not, shard blades originally did cut flesh. I wrote the entire prologue with Zeth and them cutting flesh, and whoo boy, was that bloody. These are books about war, but man, it was just so gory that I'm like, I'm gonna back off on this. Let's have it burn out the eyes instead. And I liked it way better that way. Did the Sunmaker see visions of the Stormfather too? He did not. The Sunmaker was basically just my version of an Alexander the Great, or maybe a better example would be Genghis Khan or somebody like that. One of the great warlords from the past. He did not see the visions of the Stormfather. Were there radiants on the Voidbringers' side in Ancient Desolations? So I will raffo this for now. Excellent question. There were humans on their side, and there were occasionally singers on the human side. How the heck is Nail Spren still with him? Is this Spren as wacky as he is, or is it dead and he still carries it around? Nail Spren is alive. The High Spren, I would say wacky is probably a decent term for them. I would blame some of how Nail is acting more on the High Spren. Obviously, it's partially, being a herald and all the things he's gone through, but they're all on board for this. So read that as you will. Shardblades cut organic and inorganic matter differently. How would they interact with a construct like an awakened strawman? What about a lifeless? So I walk kind of a fine line here. Something that's animated in a construct like an awakened strawman is likely going to block the Shardblade to some extent, as powerful investiture would. A lifeless is probably just going to act like it was a living being.
Is there a specific shard that most of the Spren come from?
So most of the Spren are going to be related to a combination of honor and cultivation. Weighted certain directions for certain types of Spren,
okay.
But the Spren are mostly both of them.
Are they considered splinters?
Yes, you could call Spren splinters if you wanted to. They work in the same way as a splinter.
Okay. Can you become a Nightblood savant?
No, I don't think that would work. Probably not. Whether Nightblood is a savant or not, right? But you probably could not become a savant of Nightblood.
Does a metal need to be swallowed to be burned, or can it be injected or snorted?
It could be either of those two things. Metal into the body in any way is going to work generally. There's nothing magical about the stomach, even though it works the best when we talk about it. It's just more intermixing the nature of the metal with your soul.
As I understand it, red is a sign of corruption in the Cosmere. I just reread The Emperor's Soul, and it mentioned wisps of red smoke when Shai tests the soul stamps. Does this mean she is corrupting Gautana's soul?
Yes, that is what that means. Corruption doesn't have to have the negative connotation, right? Basically, it means an outside influence is changing the spiritual nature of the soul. And yeah, that's exactly what is happening right there.
Can shard blades, dead or alive, be used as humalurgic spikes? And if attempted, what would the result be?
Technically, yes, but in practicality, no. To use something as a hemalurgic spike, it basically just needs to be able to already have a charge of investiture or be able to adopt one, right? Technically, shard blades are made from a god metal. You could do this, but the blade is going to be big and unwieldy, and the form it's in right now is not going to, it's going to slice the soul rather than rip pieces off. You would have to jump through a bunch of hoops that wouldn't be worth it in order to use one. It would basically mean that you'd have to separate the metal of the shard blade from the concept of a shard blade itself. Well, I'd be casting to match ethnicity. It depends on the series. In some series, it's really relevant. In other series, it's not as relevant. On Scadrial, skin color and ethnicity are not tied together. Sazed will almost certainly be cast as black. Basically, most characters could be cast as black or white because ethnicity is tied to heritage and culture. Vin will almost certainly be Caucasian, the way that she's described and depicted. In Stormlight, all the Alethi need to be the same ethnicity is kind of what I've been pushing, and we're probably going to pick Asian. Here, I understand there's a lot of different cultures that are Asian. Fortunately, the Alethi, they've done a lot of conquering, and so there's a lot, they've got a mixed heritage. Shallan, we can go either way with, right, because she's an ethnicity that doesn't really exist on Earth. I've told them that I'd allow Shallan to be Caucasian if we have the right actor. Will Kaladin ever find love? He's asking that same question as well. Does Gallant's eyes being rainbow have any Cosmere significance? It is an indication of his friend bond. When you see a kind of mother of pearl or a rainbow shimmer of luminescence, that is an indication of something happening with investiture in the Cosmere. Can some spren fully form and become human? No spren becomes human. They are a different race. And so, no, that is not a thing that happens. Are Parshendi human hybrids possible? Yes, they are. In fact, both the Horn-Eaters and the Herdazians are descendants of human Parshendi, human listener hybrids. And there's very, very small remnants of it. They are mostly human, but they have a bit of listener heritage, just like a lot of us have some Neanderthal heritage. They perhaps have a little bit more in their past. So, yes, this is possible. Could there be a cure for diabetes in the Cosmere? Yes, there very much could be a cure for diabetes in the Cosmere. Right now, if you become a Knight Radiant, that would be a solution. That's not a solution for everyone. That's a very narrow solution, but there would be other solutions. What effect does a Spren bond have on a Rashadium? It increases their intelligence a great deal, gives them a little extra hardiness to survive in Roshar, and in exchange, the Spren gets pulled in the physical realm, which they really like. Would a Macaw be able to become a Radiant, or do you need sentience? You need sapience. A Macaw could not become a Knight Radiant. A Macaw could, theoretically, enter a symbiotic Spren bond, which would have different effects, but a lot of creatures on Roshar do have what I would term an in-between step between human-level intelligence and animal-level intelligence on Earth. Rashadium are in this. Chasm Fiends, as well, are smarter than an animal can get on Earth. If Roshar's years are 500 days long, and I say someone is 20 years old, how does that equate to Earth time? It equates to actually about 10% difference. The years are 500 days, the days are shorter, and there are fewer months. It all works out mathematically to about 10%. So if I say someone is 20, in the books, they are 22 in Earth years.
Will there be enlightened spren of other radiant orders than Truth Watchers? And why do Ja-Anat like Truth Watchers so much?
The reason Ja-Anat likes Truth Watchers spren the most is because they are the most willing. And she considers what she's doing offering enlightenment, not corrupting. And she considers their willingness to be a part of this. Outside observers might consider her methods involving less volition on the parts of some of the spren that she touches. They might argue with her on that point. How about that?
There's anyone in the Cosmere capable of winning a fight with Landman Dragaran without investiture?
No. I would not say that there is. Lan is the best swordsman I have ever written. Aelin, of people I've written about, would be the closest, but Lan would win.
Could you create a Fabrial capable of showing past events using a Radiant Spren and a gold cage?
Rapho, theorize further along those lines.
Do you regret setting the precedent that Stormlight books are as big as they are?
Nope. They're the length I want them to be. And I have always said to people, these will be at the length that I want them to be. I view them as 1,000-page epics. That's how I plot them. That's how I pace them. That's how I want them to be. Never felt constrained by that. I have more felt constrained by the realities of publishing and how long I can get before the presses break. I'm writing the Stormlight books at the length they deserve to be, not at an artificially inflated length, if that makes sense.
Will the 10th book of the Stormlight Archive be the last book in the Cosmere universe, or are there plans to continue with other stories in the Cosmere universe indefinitely?
So the last chronological book of the Cosmere sequence is the final Mistborn book. So the way that the structure works right now, Elantris, Mistborn Era 1, Stormlight Archive, first 5, Mistborn Era 2, 3, Elantris 2 and 3, Stormlight Archive 6 through 10, then the final Mistborn Era is how I'm going. Right? Did I miss one? I did miss one. I missed an era. So I'm going to do the Wax and Wane era and the era, the 1980s era kind of together. Mash those together. So Era 1, we will have the flashbacks to Dragonsteel after Stormlight 10, but before Era 4 of Mistborn. I do not intend it to go indefinitely. If I manage to get all of that done before I die, which I hope I will, I move pretty quickly, then there's a decent chance I will write other Cosmere books that happen in the Cosmere, probably during this time frame, at some point unconnected or only tangentially related and things like that. But I do intend that to be final book of the Cosmere sequence, and I have no plans for anything chronologically after that.
Which character's growth am I most proud of? Boy, that's really a tough one. I'm probably going to settle on Dalinar. It's hard to say who my first character was, right? But I do have writing from when I was 16 and trying my first novel that has both Hoyd and Dalinar in it, right? And I often look at Dalinar as my first character. He's definitely the first character I can remember. And I wrote multiple books with Dalinar before I arrived at the version of Way of Kings that you guys read. And he's a character who's very compelling, and I kept coming back to. And it almost feels like it's like I had to grow up in order to get Dalinar right, if that makes sense. He's grown with me as a character across my 50 years of life, and I'm most proud of just being able to do justice to this idea I had when I was 15 years old.
When a different person takes up the shards, it was established that the rhythm of said shard changes. Does this imply that everybody has their own specific rhythm? And if so, is that necessary for something like making a cognitive shadow?
So yes, your blanket answer is yes. Everyone will have their own song, their own rhythm, their own tone. But with an individual, it's very quiet compared to that of a shard or a planet or things like that. But yes, they do exist, and that is very deeply related to both soul casting and forging.
I have a theory about the heralds and specifically the honor blade. So were they originally designed to be able to pull Stormlight straight from the spirit realm? And were they broken when the heralds abandoned the blades in the Oath Pact? Is Towns not broken because he didn't abandon his blade?
I'm gonna raffle you, but there is something odd about the honor blades, isn't there? There's some odd stuff going on there. So yeah, Raffo for you. Excellent question.